Welcome to the PTTS. Today's day is May 16, 2026. My name is Nang Hong Lam. Today PTTS sessions video is on a quick note on the content that I posted up yesterday, May 15, 2026 on my PTTS blog. That content is titled One of the content is titled Beauty is in the Eye of the Beholder. So this is just a quick note on that content. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There was basically, I was saying you have to read that content to know what about this quick note I'm about to point out. Basically, in that content I was saying that there are TCG players who could argue that they have spotted me at the Horton Plaza Mall. It's close by the Comic-Con Convention Center, which is in the San Diego downtown area, close to the trolley station at Broadway Street, around Broadway Street. Pretty much, I think the reason could be because I was I was at the, pretty much like, during this period of time, it's around 2000, so I was at the height of, I don't know, like, I just know that. Anyway, I'm just making sure. I'm in the middle of my cooking, so I just want to make sure I don't overcook my food or something, so I just set the time and everything. Okay, so anyway, back to what I'm saying. So, pretty much, it's around 2000, I was at the height of, I don't know, like, it's really, to me, I felt, like, I had a 15 first place streak going until my younger brother, Du Hong Lam, asked me that he also want to join the Pokemon tournament. So, I remember before that, I kind of like, in a way, because he's my younger brother, so I felt like, basically, during my training for the Pokemon tournament, I would also train him, as an older brother. Now he's asking me if he wanted to join the Pokemon tournament, and so pretty much after that, we just kind of like, whenever me and him got to the first place and second place, I didn't really want it to, kind of like wanted to keep it at, that's, it's like, it counts as one of my first place, it's just like, don't want it to over stress on that and things like that. Like I'm saying, just pretty much, I felt like maybe it could be a more, like I'm saying, like if there is like a Pokemon trading card game convention center or something, like I would announce that it would be more fair / reasonable if I were to say that me and him during those time when me and him got to the first and second place. It's just maybe since I'm the older brother, maybe I get like 5 or a little, around there, 5 or more first place than him, to split the first place more evenly, like kind of like in a way than just saying that it would automatically count as I'm getting that first place. I felt maybe that would be more reasonable and fair to him if I say like, maybe instead of saying that all those time, me and him get to first and second, I get the first place since I'm the older brother, it probably wouldn't be as fair and as reasonable to him. It's like, anyway, like I'm just saying, but in general, it's just like, beside my younger brother, in general, I was already kind of like, in a way, it kind of really, like, it's just in general, like I'm just saying that to have a first place that it's not broken, like a streak that constantly, and kind of like in a way, it's not an easy thing to accomplish, it's just like, and especially, like your younger brother who you have taught, like he's my younger brother and I've trained him while I was getting ready to join the Pokemon tournament and things like that, and also afterward he asked me if he wanted to join, and then also continue training him, getting him ready to join the tournament. So in a way, it's felt like, yeah, I don't know, like we didn't really talk about it, but in the past, like I remember in the past he told me like whenever me and him get to first and second place, like he willing to give me that first place, but like I felt like, but yet, it openly talking about it doesn't really seem, like really that fair / reasonable to him. It's like, me and him get to the first and second, he automatically gave me, forfeit and gave me that first place. Like in a way, like saying just, but yet if you look at our history, because I'm his older brother and I've been training him before the tournament began, the Pokemon tournament began, and also afterward when he decided to, and I also continued training him. So in a way, you'll see that it seems more reasonable that way and things like that. And okay, I kind of had to pause the video to kind of just check on my cooking. Okay, back to what I'm gonna say. Anyway, so like I'm just saying, just beside that, back then it wasn't really a problem that much, because like I'm saying, I'm his older brother, I trained him, and I already have like a 15 first place streak going when he asked me if he also wanted to join the Pokemon tournament, things like that. So back then we talked about it and everything, so it doesn't seem like a problem and anything. Like I'm just saying, in general, people curious about why did he willing to do that for me and things like that. Like whenever me and him get to the first and second place, willing to forfeit his second, like forfeit the competition to let me have that first place. And in general, people wondering why he willing to do that and things like that. Okay, anyway, I kind of paused the video to check on my cooking again. Alright, I kind of lower, like I stopped it, the power on the cooking so that make sure I don't overcook the food. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Okay, alright, so, well, I mean, in general, that wasn't really much of a problem back then. Like, you know, because we talked it out, and also I he like you know like he allowed the cards is because of my card collection and things like that he used in his deck, and also I trained him in the process and things like that. Like if you see all of that, it make more sense. But like in just in case I'm saying that, you know, people wondering why he willing to take that step. You know, like if me and him get to the first, you know, first and second place, you know, why he willing to forfeit the competition and let me have the first place. It if people wondering, then if you look at our history together, then it make more sense that way. Yeah, like I'm saying, it would have been a more, like I'm saying, after 15, I have 15 first places streak. It would have been a more been I suppose more correct in a way if my younger brother didn't join, because then afterward it's, you know, like I wanted to say that whenever my younger brother got to, me and him got to first and second, he willing to give me that first play, but would it still count toward my first place streak and things like that. But in general, it is actually harder than it looks to maintain the first place streak. And then, especially when there are international players coming to San Diego, visiting San Diego, and came to name the game store. That's where the Pokemon tournament took place, in the Garnet Avenue, and named the game store. So they came there as, you know, they say, you know, they travel from different countries, just came here to just visit the Pokemon tournament and things like that, and they're telling me these stories. Is, you know, hearing these stories is, you know, I felt the importance of the Pokemon tournament and things like that. And nevertheless, I just was just thrilled and started having thoughts about official TCG Championship, official TCG Hall of Fame, and things like that. It's sort of thoughts is starting to, you know, like pretty much like start having these thoughts is pretty much like, and at the same time, you know, that I would be considered as one of the top players out there because of my first place streak. And so anyway, at the back to the Horton Plaza Mall. So pretty much like the Pokemon 2000 movie release, and remember was anticipated for it, and you know it's like, and also it was on the when you purchase a ticket you get a free promotional Pokemon trading card game, TCG cards with the ticket purchase. And so nevertheless, like I was saying, it, you know, anything related to Pokemon, you know, like I would have first scoop on it, you know, try to get the insight on it and things like that. And you know, just to keep up with the reputation as one of the top players out there. And like I was saying earlier, you have to read the beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder content to know what I'm talking about, to kind of like able to follow what I'm saying and things like that, and to understand more basically. And so pretty much like so during the release on the summer 2000 for the Pokemon 2000 the movie, and so I'm leaving the Comic-Con Convention Center. That is where the game room for the Pokemon tournament are at and things like that. So just, you know, like I'm saying, you have to read that content to really know what I'm talking about and things like that. And So I'm leaving the Comic-Con to go to Horton Plaza Mall. Like I was saying, and like I'm saying, that could be one reason why those teacher players could argue they spotted me at the Horton Plaza Mall. Nevertheless, I didn't want any of these to really get in the way of my Pokemon tournament competition day and things like that. So I didn't really, put too much emphasis to, my trip to the Horton Plaza Mall and things like that. But from what I remember, it was a really memorable experience. I remember was just kind of like in a way giving myself a break to just kind of like in a way to be away from all the competitions for like duration of time and things like that. Kind of like a break, like I felt at the same time it's Pokemon 2000 the movie and things like that, and from what I remember, like it was just like I think I was like the only person in that whole theater or something. Like I was saying, I didn't really think too much about it, and remember which is seeing myself like in the, I don't know, like I'm saying, as I went in there, I immediately, fell asleep in the theater and felt like I was inside that movie and things like that, and the melody from which is called the Legend Come Alive, the title of melody of the flute, and in that movie, that when that flute is playing, it would rejuvenate the legendary Pokemon. So I remember just waking up during when the flute was playing in the movie, and I felt like I'm being rejuvenated, and it was just a very memorable experience, going to Horton Plaza Mall and being rejuvenated. And nevertheless, like I'm saying, just because of hearing the flute melody of Legend Come Alive, which is titled it Legend Come Alive. So like I'm saying, maybe it is possible for a legends that evolve around TCG Championship and TCG Hall of Fame and things like that. Maybe that is what rejuvenated me, that. But like I was saying, it just, at the time, I was just so occupied with maintaining the first place streak and just in general, just the having the most first places in the name of the game store that I was in and things like that. And so I think that is why that melody food sort of rejuvenated my spirit and things like that. My body, soul, spirit, and all of that, it's like. Nevertheless, I mentioned Horton Plaza Mall in beauty, it's in the eye of the beholder. Content is because of that rejuvenation I had. So, but I just mentioned, I didn't really say much about it in that content. Basically, right now, talk more about it. Why I brought up Horton Plaza Mall for like in that content. So pretty much just like really briefly, like one sentence on the Horton Plaza Mall. I didn't really mention much about it in that content, but like I'm saying, why, all these different locations. Why did I mention the Horton Plaza Mall and things like that? Anyway, it's supposed to be a quick note, but it's already like 20 minutes, so I'm gonna end this video. Okay, so thank you for watching PTTS. Thank you for following PTTS. I'm gonna end this video in 3, 2, 1.